Hi there, welcome. I hope you're doing well. Electric cars are everywhere these days, but no one is really talking about electric motorcycles. And I want to find out why. And I think I've figured out 5 possible reasons why that may be. So first off, we have range. Second, we have weight. Then we have the charging experience. Fourth, we have the actual riding experience. So do you miss the emotion of an internal combustion engine when you're riding? And then lastly, we have the price. So in this video, we're going to run through all of them, take the bike out in all kinds of different scenarios and see if these reasons are true. Should we be talking more about electric motorcycles? Well, before we get into that, let me show you what it is. So yeah, before we get going, what am I riding this week? So this is the Zero DSR. That's the mid-range sport touring model from Zero. It has 44 horsepower, so it's A2 compliant. But the interesting thing about electric bikes is they only measure the continuous horsepower and not the peak power. So this thing actually makes 70 peak horsepower, which makes it quite fast for an A2 bike. It weighs 240 kilograms, so again on paper that might seem kind of heavy, but we'll get into that once we start riding and see if that actually feels that heavy. Around town you're gonna get around 250 kilometers of range, and if you do a mixture of town riding and highway riding, that goes down to 160. It takes 4 hours to charge when you're just using your normal wall charger. And if you're using a fast charger, it takes 1.5 hours to go from empty to 95%. So here in Holland, this bike is 22,500 euros. Those are the specs of the bike. Now today, we're gonna go on the highway a bit, go into Amsterdam center to see how the range is, to see how it handles around town. I have to pick up a GoPro battery because my GoPro keeps dying in the cold and I really want to use the second angle. So we'll get to see how it behaves in an urban manner. And then tomorrow we'll go on a nice twisty road, see how it handles that, if it's still fun to ride, even though it's lacking an engine. And we'll basically figure out if we should be talking about electric bikes more, if people should be buying these more, if people should be riding these, and all of that good stuff. So for now, let's hop on and get going. So yeah, to sum up the range, I think the claims are pretty accurate. Of course, you're going to get a lot better range in the city and combined riding than you are going to do pure highway riding. The range gets worse in the cold, but again, that's nothing new with EVs. I think it can be a bit limiting if you plan on going on longer trips, but if you do use this bike for its intended purpose and within a reasonable riding distance, so maybe a riding trip, a day trip of let's say 130 kilometers mixed highway and urban riding or in the nice countryside, you're going to be just fine. And also if you're going to be commuting like this, where you know how far you're going to ride every day, and if you're able to plug it in at home or at work, yeah, it's definitely not a problem. Just consider what you're going to use the bike for before dipping your toes, buying one, and then you're going to be just fine. So yeah, heading into town now, which is going to bring me into the weight segment. As I mentioned in the beginning, this bike weighs 240 kilograms, which might seem quite hefty on paper. I mean, it is quite hefty for a middleweight. But to be honest, when you're riding it around town like this, it's so amazingly easy to ride. Because you don't have a clutch, but also because the throttle response is literally perfect. The weight is really down low because the battery is so low. So it's really easy to maneuver in between cars, to just use low speed maneuvers, come to a stop smoothly, which I think makes it a really good town bike. Yeah, the torque of the EV makes it really easy to get away at stoplights first thing. And it also makes it really fun to ride around town because you always have that punch available. And even though this is an A2 bike, it is really properly punchy. So yeah, weight-wise, nothing to complain about. It honestly feels like maybe a 180 kilogram bike. It's astonishing. I think they could get away with making it a bit heavier. Like the only time I felt the weight is when you go over some potholes or something. You feel it in the suspension. You feel there's quite a bit of mass to keep in control. Oh, these things are always fucking really slippery in the rain. The tram tracks. So you have to be really careful around them. So yeah, big tip for EV motorcycles around town. I think this is the future. I think this is the way. It's so easy to ride, so smooth, a lot of fun. Now we're almost at the camera store where I'm gonna pick up a GoPro battery which hopefully is able to withstand these cold temperatures a little bit more. The GoPro I have currently dies after like a minute of recording in the cold. After which we are going to talk about the charging experience, which is an interesting one, I can tell you that much. So yeah, let's pick up some camera stuff and then we'll talk about the charging. Well, would you look at that? I have my second camera angle back, which I'm so happy about. I was so sick of mounting all the cameras, getting ready to film, and then the GoPro just crapping out on me and recording for 1 minute and then just stopping. And I think it was due to the temperature outside because it's been so cold. But now I have the Enduro battery, 25 euros. And it should be a lot more resistant to the cold. I don't know, I think it's a bit ridiculous. You have to buy a separate battery for your GoPro to be able to record in the cold. Because the DJI I'm filming on with my helmet has never had any problems, even after surviving the desert at Dakar and then going through the cold right now. Never had any issues. And the GoPro is always misbehaving or crapping itself or whatever, but I won't bore you with that. I'm just really happy. I think this has fixed it. So yeah, how are you today? I mean, I talk about myself all of the time and all of these bikes, but how are you? I think that's an important question to ask yourself every once in a while, especially considering the society we live in right now. Everything always moves so fast and it's a lot of pressure to perform and do well in life, and I don't know, I just think sometimes it's good to stop and just think like, am I doing the right thing? Am I on the right track? Is that really what's gonna make me happy in life? Which is why I started this YouTube channel actually. I've been in the motorcycle branch for like 7 years now. Finally decided to start my own business 2 years ago. Rocky start, of course. It's always difficult to start your own business. And then I was just asking myself, what is it I really want to do in life? And then one part of it is riding motorcycles, of course, because riding is awesome. And then also, what skills do I have? You know, what do I have to add to the world? And then I figured, I don't know, I'm pretty okay with the camera, good at photos and some video. I watch a lot of YouTube. I've watched YouTube since I was like 11 years old. I was like, okay, we'll just give it a go and see what we can do. And I have to say, I'm amazed by all the support you guys have given me. I think last year I started halfway through 2024 and I got 230,000 views in the first 6 months, which is just insane to me. I never would have expected it to do that well and so many people be interested, and that's the reason why this year I'm gonna treat YouTube as my full-time job pretty much. I have so many nice adventures planned, so many nice things, a lot of bikes to ride, a lot of interesting stories to tell. I've got some sponsors who amazingly want to work with me, some brands I really love. And yeah, that's I guess why I'm asking this question to you guys. Like, how are you feeling right now? Because this is really scary, of course. I don't have really much security in my professional life, so to say.
starting your own business and then starting YouTube, which is of course not a given you're going to make any money at all. But I don't know, it's something I want to try, and if this does succeed, like I'm going to be riding bikes for my job, and I want to travel a lot, travel on the bike of course, and all of that I'm just going to capture some amazing adventures for you, which I hope you'll enjoy. So yeah, that's just one of my missions this year as well, is to start tell you a little bit more about myself and being more honest, because you spend your time watching my videos, and I think you deserve to know a little bit more about me if you do. Yeah, grace me with your attention and your time. I honestly appreciate it a lot. It's not nothing to, you know, you can watch any other video and you are here, so that's pretty special to me. Oh yeah, and by the way, if you do want to support me on this crazy journey, the best thing you can do is subscribe to the channel, because as of right now I'm a little over 1,000 subscribers, and I believe 95% of the people watching my videos are not subscribed. So yeah, if a small percentage of you guys change that, that would mean the world to me. And honestly, all the money I'm going to be making off of this is just going to go straight into making better videos. Honestly, I do rent a lot of the bikes I use. I don't have all of the manufacturers supporting me yet, which is of course also another mission. But yeah, I also invest a lot of my own money into this channel. Pretty much all of the bikes you saw last year, except for the Hondas, were paid for out of my own pocket. So yeah, any support you can give me, it's honestly truly appreciated. Alright, so let me show you what the charging experience is like at home. So just got back from the ride, 65% left, 101 kilometers. The bike has this nice frunk which you can open, and you can keep your storage cables in there. So let's see, this is the wall socket thingy. You lift this little flap, close that up. Storage is pretty big, by the way. You can fit some other stuff in there next to your charging cables. So you put it in, you can see on the dashboard it turns on, and then you plug it into your wall socket like this. And over here on the display you can see how much power it's drawing. So on the wall socket you get 3 kilowatt hours, and on the fast chargers you get 6. The current is drawing, how much time there's left. So this is 2 hours to replenish 35% of battery, because that's not quite at 3 kilowatts yet. And it just displays your current range. And this is going to stay on all the way through the charging process. So let's just put it on the steering lock, and then we'll go inside and I'll talk about the public charging experience, because that's not always as convenient as this. So yeah, about the public charging, there's a big lesson I've learned, and that's in Holland at least you definitely want a charging pass. I went out on a day ride to the nature reserve here in Holland, 70 kilometers ride, 70 kilometers back, and my plan was to get there, plug the bike in, have some lunch, go for a walk, and then the bike would be fully charged. But of course I get there, the charger doesn't support ad hoc payment is what they call it. So okay, so little bit of a hiccup. It's not looking like I'm going to be able to use the charger over there. So with some chargers you can scan a QR code and then pay with your phone. This one didn't support it, so I went to have lunch, go for a walk, but my bike wasn't charged. And that was a bit of a problem, because then you're looking for a charger that does support ad hoc payment. And you have to go find one, preferably one with a cafe or something nearby, because you don't want to stand in a residential neighborhood for the entire duration of the charge. Also went to a charger where there were parked cars in front, even though they weren't charging, they were just petrol cars charging, standing in front of the charging base, which was really annoying. Yeah, all of that could have just been prevented if I had gotten a charging pass, but I didn't know. This is my first electric bike. But yeah, you can just get some for free here in Holland if you download the AMB app. This is not sponsored, but I saw you can get a free charging pass So for the next press bike I get, I will definitely do that because it would have saved me a lot of trouble. But other than that, yeah, I think if you do have the charging pass, the public charging network seems to be pretty solid. There's plenty of apps around where you can just select your charging type, because there's different types of chargers, as I've learned. And if you do that, yeah, you can just find a charger that's suitable to your vehicle. In this case, I think it's a Type B. And then, yeah, just put on your pass and then it should just work. So yeah, it's not that big of a deal. And again, if you do fast charge, it's full in 1.5 hours from empty all the way to 95%. So that's pretty fast. Generally, you're not going to charge from 0 to 100. You're going to go till like 30% at the minimum, plug it in, and then you're going to go up to like 80. That's the most efficient. And it's going to give you plenty of range. And yeah, as I mentioned, just have some lunch, go for a walk or whatever, and you should be good to go. So I don't think it's as big of a deal as many people might make it out to be, or as they perceive in their head. And I also think it's one of the things you have to get used to, and which will get easier as you do own it for a longer of time. It's just that, yeah, my first experience wasn't that smooth. So yeah, that was me for today. Tomorrow we're going to take the bike out on some twisty roads. We'll answer the question if the emotional side of the bike is still good. So do I miss an engine? Do I miss the vibrations, the noise, all of that stuff of a normal petrol bike? I'm gonna go have some dinner now, and then I'll see you tomorrow. Welcome to the second day. And look at this glorious weather. The sun has come out. It's a bit windy, but temperature is decent. It's 13 degrees. And today we're out on the twisty road to answer if you miss the emotional side of an internal combustion engine on a bike like this, throwing it around a set of corners. And to be honest, I don't miss it as much as you might expect. The electric element has a character of its own. The low center of gravity makes it really easy to throw into all of these tight corners. It's so well balanced. And all of the reasons that makes it an excellent city bike also makes it really fun to throw around these corners. So also the instant torque of the electric motor. And I also want to tell a story of the road we're riding on right now. So this is called Kromme Meidrecht, or the Curvy Meidrecht, as you would call it in English. And it's a road me and a friend of mine ride a lot. The only downside to it is that the people here really don't like motorcycles. So if you come here, you will see signs next to the road everywhere saying, "Leave us alone," and "Go slow," and stuff like that. And I think that's mainly due to the part that people come here in big groups riding with their open exhaust sport bikes or Harleys, and that kind of takes away the experience, because if you ride here even at a normal pace, people get upset at you because they just hate motorcyclists in general. But on an electric bike like this, people don't really care. They don't even look at you. And it might sound like a small thing, but it feels so much better to be able to enjoy yourself and just open up the throttle a little bit more than you would normally on an internal combustion bike, while still not pissing off all the people around you. And of course you can argue, of course we live in a free world, I live in a free country, you can do whatever the heck you want. But I mean, I always think we all have to get along, you know, just don't be a dickhead. And I feel like the silent part of this EV really allows you to enjoy these kinds of roads a lot more. And again, I don't miss the engine noise or the vibrations or stuff like that much. I mean, a screaming V4 or a V-twin sound would be nice. But I mean, if you're riding other bikes in this class, if you're riding like a Furzy 650 or, I don't know, a Phaser 600, like the engine doesn't do much for me anyway. You have downsides and you have upsides, you know, but I think just having a blanket statement saying, oh, EV bikes have no soul and I would never ride something like that because I need an engine between my legs. Of course, fair enough, you know, to each their own. But to me, it doesn't matter as much as you might think. And it also opens up a lot more opportunity, a lot more freedom, and it just makes you feel a little bit better about enjoying your hobby. And it's just so confidence inspiring.
The suspension works well, the brakes work well. You have nice leverage from the big fat handlebars. It gives me big supermoto vibes, to be honest. Think like KTM 890 SMT or the Ducati Hyperstrada, if any of you remember that. That's a really niche bike. But yeah, it just feels like this big but really light on its feet and fun to throw around, and honestly just such a big surprise. Look at this. Oh, right, left, and I punch it out. So good. So yeah, I'm just gonna watch the Zero because I'm gonna bring it back to the guys at Zero in a moment, and I think that makes it time to talk about the elephant in the room, which is the price. But yeah, don't worry about the pressure washer, because on this one you can adjust the amount of pressure you're using. So don't worry about high pressure water getting into the fork seals and stuff. So yeah, let me talk about the elephant in the room regarding electric bikes, and the fifth point on the list, which is price. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this bike costs 20,000 euros, 23,000 euros, which I just think is too much. I mean, I get it, we're not at the scale of economies of electric cars yet, so that's going to be a huge cost prohibitive reason. So I completely understand where they're coming from. But I just think that for the mass market, for most people, 23,000 euros for a motorcycle is just a big amount of money. So yeah, that's probably going to be the biggest factor why we don't see more of these on the roads and why more people aren't going to be talking about bikes like this. Of course, you do recoup some of that cost when you consider in fuel bills and running costs. I think I did a calculation where if you commute on this bike 100 kilometers every day for 3 years, you get like between 6,000 to 8,000 euros back. So yeah, considering that, it does reduce the price and the cost of ownership by a lot, but still you do have to make the initial investment of 23,000 euros before purchasing this bike. So yeah, where does that leave us? Well, I really like the riding experience. The charging experience wasn't too bad if you can plug in it at home or at work. The range is quite good if you are within a reasonable if you don't want to do too many long rides. I mean, I think taking this thing on holiday would be a bit of a challenge, but maybe also a fun one, so maybe I should do that. The weight is really no factor at all, honestly. You don't feel the weight at all. Even when riding around town, low speed maneuvers, it's really excellent. And I think that might actually be one of the best positives about an electric bike like this. Emotion-wise also, don't miss the engine that much. If you're looking at other bikes in this class, generally the engine doesn't do a huge amount for me. If you're like looking at the normal 4-cylinder or maybe a Versi 650 or something, the engine isn't a standout feature to me anyway. And this has a character of its own. So yeah, I think that mainly leaves us just with the price. As I mentioned, I just think it's too much. Zero is aware of this, so they are working on a more affordable model range. I think between 9,000 and 20,000 euros. So that's going to be a lot more attractive as an entry point for younger riders and people who just want to try this, people who want to commute on this. So yeah, I'm gonna make sure this thing is all squeaky clean and then hand it back to Zero. Please do let me know in the comments what you think of electric motorcycles. Has this video changed your opinion at all? If you are interested in more weird motorcycles like this one, I do have a video where I ride one of the first, well actually the first turbocharged motorcycle in the world. And it's a really special video to me, so click on here if you want to see that. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.